Okay, when you're ready.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our.
Oh, there's the microphone.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our panel, Writers as Caregivers, Balancing Creativity and Nurturing Loved Ones. My name is Rodriguez-Hanley. We have Diane Brown and Kate McLean joining us. A huge thank you to women who submit, Plaza, Raza, to all our volunteers, vendors, and the sponsors for making this happen. Thank you all for being here. This presentation, we're going to talk about writing. This afternoon, we'll present and talk about writing while caregiving, and then we'll do a Q&A. So we're missing one person. Hopefully, you, Gonzalez, will be joining us. And I will go first. So sorry that Liz is not here. Oh, Liz is here. Yay! So it's okay. Relax. I'll read my. Oh, sorry.
I'm gonna read receipts by. So Lucy Rodriguez-Hanley is a Dominican nonfiction writer, filmmaker, and mother of two. Her work is featured in Harper Lea's Somewhere We Are Human, Made in LA, Volume 4, and the Latinx Project at NYU, among others. She is the chapter's director for Women Pacific.
Thank you so much. That helps so much. So I am the proud mother of two, ages 6 and 8, and they were very hard to conceive. IVF number 5 and 6. My caregiving journey began when my daughter was born in 2016. And before becoming a parent and while I was undergoing fertility treatments, I attended writing workshops, residency, not like VODA workshop, which was kind of like a go away for a week type of thing. I attended another similar one where you're gone for about a week. So once kids happen, those are not possible. But I was also slowly forming community. And when my daughter was born in 2016, my creativity flourished. I also had the audacity to take a writing workshop when she was 2 months old. And I was only able to do that because I was on maternity leave from my job and my husband is a supportive spouse. I got a lot of flack from 2 of the women in that workshop because, quote unquote, how dare you leave your baby alone? So a lot of people have those kinds of ideas when when you're a mom and taking care of your kids, that is usually like a babysitter or not even considered worthy of leaving your kid with while you're going to a workshop. My milk supply did not come in no matter how hard I tried, but I did not have guilt over not being able to nurse my daughter. Conceiving her was so hard and I was grateful to have her. And I made myself a promise that if I gave birth to a healthy baby, I would not obsess over all the things that new mothers or mothers in general beat themselves up about. My birth plan went out the window when I had to have a C-section, and I was fine with that. And when I could not breastfeed, I was also fine with formula. One thing that I learned from infertility was to give myself grace.
Can you use the other mic?
Is better?
I'll let you know.
Okay. I was separated from my daughter when she was 2 years old. I was 25 weeks pregnant with my son and put on bed rest at UCLA Santa Monica, about 30 miles from my home. My son was born at 28, and I did not know if he was going to make it tonight. Instead of rocking my newborn humming Stevie Wonder songs in a rocking chair at home, he was tethered to a ventilator and multiple machines fighting for his life. My husband and I took daily trips up and down the 405, making sure one of us was always with him. Now, imagine doing this while raising an energetic 2-year-old and pumping every 3 hours. Charlie spent 70 days in the neonatal intensive care unit. And creativity, I had nothing. There was nothing creative going on. This was the reality of the summer. Journaling became a lifeline. I was not thinking of writing creatively, and I did not have bandwidth to think of such a luxury when I did not know if my baby would survive. I clung to my journal to stay sane. As a memoirist, my journals have served as a way to keep the journal entries came in handy when I submitted and got accepted to the anthology Somewhere We Are Human, edited by Elena Grande and Sonia Saga. And it was published by a big publishing house, Harpolia. And the piece is about the intersection of grief, maternal health, and the separation of families under the Trump administration. So anything related to the Trump administration in my piece was thoroughly fact-checked with dates and historical accuracy, and my saving grace was that journal. I'll read a little bit from that.
You have to talk into the mic.
I delivered my son a day short of 29 weeks, 15 days after I was admitted to the hospital. The day before Charlie was born, President Trump signed an executive order to reverse family separation. Matt shared the news, hoping to alleviate some of the anxiety. Matt shared the news, hoping to alleviate some of the anxiety I had over my son's premature birth. He weighed fewer than 3 pounds and was the size of a ruler. Between the drugs, the hormones, and not knowing whether my son was going to make it through the night, I felt like I had no control over anything in my life. The day I was discharged, I had to leave my son behind, but I pushed the guilt away, and I made Matt speak down the 405 to my daughter. I had been away from her for almost 3 weeks. I sat on the front steps waiting for her to come out of daycare. I had a C-section and couldn't pick her up. She ran to me and hugged me. She buried her nose in my neck, inhaling me the way I used to do with my own mother. I cried and she did too. "Mommy, you're here," she said over and over. The next day, Matt and I drove to the neonatal intensive care unit to spend time with our son while Hudson was in daycare. On the drive home, we heard that a federal court had ordered the government to reunite the stolen children with their parents. They have 14 days to unite families with children younger than 5 and 30 days to unite families with children older than 5. I knew the trauma of separation was going to haunt these families. Charlie spent 70 days in the NICU. I was devastated by this birth and the guilt of not carrying him through full term. Being away from him, not knowing whether he was going to survive. But I never complained about the physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion. Every day I drove 3 hours to and from the hospital, splitting time between my kids and pumping around the clock to feed. How could I feel sorry for myself when my daughter was healthy and my son was receiving top of the line medical treatment? By the time Charlie came home at the end of August, he was like a healthy newborn. My blood pressure was back to normal, and Hudson no longer cried when I left the house. It took months to undo the trauma that our short separation caused. A separation where my kids were safe, where my daughter was safe at home with people who loved her. How will the trauma inflicted by the Trump administration and thousands of children and their mothers ever be healed? Will these families ever recover the way mine? My son is now almost 3. He is healthy and thriving. When I hold him, I often think of the migrant mother I saw in Skin, hoping she was one of the lucky ones who got her baby back. So this was a time in my life where I couldn't think of anything creatively. You know, my kids are healthy, and I'm full of gratitude for that because I have more flexibility in my job now. My husband, more flexibility than my husband. I'm the one who has to take the kids to school, pick them up, activity, appointment. And last summer, was also on me to make those appointments, make sure that each visit was approved by the insurance, make sure that we got there, and then drop him off at school while I went to work. So this is kind of just like a glimpse of my life, as a caretaker, mother of young children, and trying to balance it, with my writing. Sometimes the writing comes easily because life is not as hectic, but I haven't been able to generate any writing in the last 9 months. Up until recently, I wasn't writing, and I was grateful for the Women Who Submit Summer Workshop, where it was 3 hours of classroom for 4 weeks. And I made time for that, and I was able to generate that I will be submitting on September 14th to submit one. So, just to reiterate, to make sure that when you are if you're unable to write, like the panel earlier said, have something. I kind of joined the last 20 minutes of it, and we will give the prompt. So give yourself a writing prompt, or if you don't feel like writing, go out for a walk, go out for a hike, or do something else until you get your creativity back. For me, I've never really looked at journaling as like creative writing, so that's usually my go-to. And because I write memoir, it really has, journaling is what's helped me, not only creatively, eventually when I get back to writing, oh, what was I doing on that day? What was I doing that day? My journals have been like a lifeline for me. So I encourage you all to give yourself grace when you don't have the bandwidth, and just find something else creatively or actively that you can do for yourself so that you can give yourself some grace throughout your day. Thank you. Next up, I want to introduce Kate. Kate writes fiction, creative nonfiction, and plays. She is a proud member of Women Who Submit, an Anna Ford Fellow, and a Dorland Art Scholar. My father and mother both passed. Father was 2014, 2022. I was the only child around to take care of them. They lived in a separate house, but still.
Recording in progress.
Taking care of all of their appointments. And then also being for things like the other stuff, be present for the care. My father, the care was rather light until the last 2 years would point from emergency room to hospice in the hospital. My mom was much more affected because of our relationship. So it was more of an emotional wound. While doing this, I was working as an adjunct. During my father's time, I was working in the preschool. Process, I was helping around for I needed to cut back to 2 and then to 1. So what that means is personal plans, a vacation and go away. So for me, it lasted about 10 years. The hardest part was being alone. I had siblings, but they kept waiting for me to just send them updates. And it wasn't much, that was basically on my own. I didn't have much of support
back through my texts. One of the things that I always held on to was I have a cousin, I'm proud to say, he's a Democratic congressman. He's a writer, he's a teacher. I remember, I haven't talked to him in a long time, but I remember when we used to meet and talk about writing, he said, it's hard to be creative when you're exhausted. And so that's something I hung on to. And so one of the things is to kind of write, how do you keep writing? You know, just write without being creative. Because every time I sat up, I said, I'm going to write. No, but then I found by going over some of my texts, some of these things have come out. I think most of the text I was looking at was from when I was caring for my mother. She would always shut down any creative work for me, and I only learned from last year exactly why she hated me, and that helped understand a little bit. So some of my texts were simple to people that I think my mother would live a long time. And this was after she fell, broke her hip, and the doctor told me she wasn't going to live long, and I had to explain to my siblings that I'm going to put her in board care. I can't bring her into my house. In fact, when I thought about it, a friend said, no, don't do that. And one of the things I wrote down was some of the things she said. I'm on a train. She didn't know where she was. And it's time to go. So I thought, oh, she thinks she's going to die. And then she looked at me and said, I'm glad you're here to go with me. And I thought, okay, she's being nice to me because she wants me to die with her. Okay. And, and on the other hand, usually when my sister did come out every once in a while, she would tell me, like, I don't need you now. Your sister is here. And friends would text me and say, how do you deal with this? And basically it was like, you have to go back to your core values and forget the person. And I said, I would do these things for anyone else. So it may seem weird, but I pretend my mother isn't my mother, and I just pretend she's someone else. Friends try to be helpful and say, you need to go away. There's no way to go away. I think anybody who's cared for somebody, that's Lucy just said, just can't. It'd be nice to apply for a retreat, but if I got it, I wouldn't be able to go. There was guilt, an obligation, board care. I got, people who didn't agree that I should be doing that. But she didn't eat the food there, so I had to cook and bring food to her every day. It felt lonely, it felt confined, and there's a sense of not belonging anywhere in the world. And I kept noticing she seems to be getting stronger. And I should be happy, but there's a lot of, I think there was a lot of emotional stuff there. Self-care is so important because I found all these texts about things like all of a sudden I have plantar fasciitis, frozen shoulder. If any of you were here for the first panel, there were a lot of great, ideas for exercising, taking breaks to stretch the neck and the arms and things like that. But the most difficult part was I thought I was getting dementia. I found texts that said, I can't find my car keys. I found my glasses in the microwave. I found I was missing appointments and I was always late for everything. Some observations, sometimes I couldn't, you can't write, so you write something back. What did you do today or whatever? And I wrote back. My washer took a walk. I turned it off before it unplugged itself. Or mundane lists such as organize, Trader Joe's, therapy, take mom for a second vaccination. Because towards the end it was also COVID. And then a note there, I should have scheduled therapy after seeing mom. My phone seemed to be doing its own thing, calendars, not working well, or, people. I blame my dog a lot for placing calls that I didn't know was there. I would lose my phone all the time. One time I did find it in the refrigerator. And, a great observation, my toaster oven works better when I plug it in. So, it's like, I'm saying these things that I don't know, we're under stress, all those things, but it's normal, as far as normal can be. Writing, I wanted to write, I would do, that Zoom activity. I had friends in Missouri who would like to talk about the Dow. All of a sudden, I remember getting a text, "Are you all right?" The next morning, I woke up and realized I had fallen asleep online during the discussion of the Dow. I guess I was tired. When Trump was there, I found out I could be cynical. I thought this wasn't too bad. I texted, "Too many fires have ended in ashes to be swept or blown away by winds of self-interest." That part of human nature that can be evil is always present. It sometimes hides under the downy quilt of good times, but in bad, embers of hate and self-interest ignite. When I was a little bit afraid during some of that COVID stuff, and when I would go out and walk my dog, people would shout things at me because I was Asian. And then finally I texted, my mother passed away early this morning. I was caught by surprise, stunned. It seemed that she was going to live a long, long time. I'd written about my father's death in an essay, and I found that a lot easier to process his death. There was so much that between my mother I wrote a text to somebody, and it looked a little like a poem just because in texts you have all that the way the spacing. And I wrote, "Alone, looking at her, stunned, I feel nothing. I touched her face. She might be pretending. Her skin is cool, and I knew, at least I can stop expecting that she'll ever tell me happy birthday." She never wanted to wish me a happy birthday, which I thought was kind of the worst thing possible for a mom. Writing, you write some things like about writing. Writing scared, anxiety gripped me like my brother's ghost strangling me. Now I know why she didn't want me to write. Sometimes all I would say is, "I didn't write today," and then, "No, I wrote this." So it's accepting what you can write. One person had texted me, "What are you doing for yourself?" I wrote acupuncture, Reiki, massage, study the Tao when I'm not falling asleep during discussions, meditation. The calm out help. I like listening to Matthew McConaughey and Harry Styles tell me bedtime stories. I took a teaching aroma yoga class. And then I think I also need to say something about, okay, there is something creative I thought. I'm thinking of putting all the songs that I made up for my dog into a musical. The hits will be "Settle Down, Little Boy," "I Love You, Jake," "What a Good Boy." So if you can, let out, just the most mundane things, or let yourself be a child. And then sometimes it's all I could write to somebody about my day. Life has got to let up soon. I don't know if anybody can relate to that. Here's a positive one. Better today than yesterday. Did a bit of yoga, bit of writing. Used at least 12 letters of the alphabet. It's up and down. Other people talked about walking, and I found nature being better. rather than, what did I say? Walking in the neighborhood where I shuffle along sullen sidewalks. I think I was the sullen one, not the sidewalks. And then there was the kindness of strangers. I did sign up for a workshop with Tracy, Kato Kiriyama, and she didn't know me from Adam, or me. But I was exhausted, and I texted her that I could not come. I wondered if she was recording it. She says no. But out of the kindness of her heart, she asked people in the workshop, and someone allowed them to use their laptop, and she zoomed it to me, you know, and I thought that was so kind of her. And I found an East Coast Writing Alone Together group that met 8 o'clock New York time, which is 5 o'clock. Because one of the things when you are caring for people, your sleep patterns go off, and you want to be able to sometimes at least not just be there by yourself. So they thought I was a little odd being from California and getting up at 5 to write with them. But when my mom died, I was so shocked. They sent me $200 for cash, which I thought, oh, that's nice. And unfortunately, the habit of calling DoorDash hasn't, I still sometimes use it, and the $200 is long gone. But, you know, sometimes it helps to know that there are these writing groups where you just write. At different times, I got on a London Writers Salon. I don't know if anybody knows that. They have an LA time, which is at 8 o'clock. They have a London time, which is more like around midnight or something like that. And then, but I found that the New Zealand time is at 1 p.m. So sometimes it's good to look for those different workshops. That's a very happy, upbeat group. So it's one that you just want to hear happy sounds and motivating things before your 50 minutes of writing. You know, that's good. But if you're not in for upbeat, don't go there. And so, oh, I'm over. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, then I will. The last thing, the last creative thing. Sometimes it's fun to play, and got to the point where I was writing with a friend, texting each other tombstones at the time of COVID, but only for deaths, not relating to the virus. So they were all made up and sort of silly. So it's like, it doesn't take much to write a text, sometimes a word, but when you go back, I was surprised. This is the first time I went back, and I was surprised to see, you know, to see what I've written. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Liz. Gonzalez. Thank you. She is a 2023 California Arts Council Individual Artist Fellow. She's the author of creative nonfiction chapbook, the original OLT, San Bernardino's first Our Lady of Guadalupe Church, forthcoming from Los Nietos Press, and the multi-general book, Dancing in Santa Ana Winds, poems, these rentos new and selected. Her writing recently appeared in Transformation, A Woman Who Submit Anthology, HTI Open Plaza, Air Life, and Poets and Writers Magazine. A third-generation native Californian, she teaches creative writing at the UCLA Extension Writers Program. Next. Hi, everyone. Apologies for being late. The person that I caregived for needed extra caregiving. I wanted to begin by saying that I'm not giving advice. I'm just sharing my own experience And maybe there's a nugget that you can take with you, use now, use later, even if you're going through other things and that are having other struggles getting to your writing, and to tailor them to fit your needs. I've been a caregiver twice during the COVID-19 pandemic, and it was my first time being a caregiver, and I still am a caregiver. The first time was in December 19, when my beloved Chacho, Chihuahua mix, was diagnosed with dementia, among other health conditions related to being elderly. And at that time, I was in the early stages of working on a historical creative nonfiction chapbook by the name of, or titled, Original OLG, San Bernardino's First Original, San Bernardino's First Our Lady of Guadalupe Church. And I was just conducting research for sources online, which was doable. But then as his condition progressed, I needed to read the relevant research, and I found it very challenging because I was dealing with sleep deprivation and having to take care of him, but I stuck with it, and I allowed myself to go at a turtle's pace. I did not beat myself up. I get frustrated instead, but I allowed myself to go at a turtle's pace. And then when the orders were lifted, I wanted to go on site to the Inland Empire to do research, but I was not able to because I didn't have somebody, especially during COVID, who could come over and take care of Chacho. He passed in September 2021, and in November 2021, my husband, Jorge, was diagnosed with an aggressive form of stage 4 kidney cancer that had spread to his lungs. And in some ways, caring for Chacho prepared me to care for Jorge. Our lives were calm until July 2021, when he had a large cancerous tumor removed from his left femur, and they had to put a rod in his femur to keep the bone strong there, because they had taken out a big part of it. And cancer continued to spread in the soft tissue of his thigh and flank. Progressively, his pain increased while his mobility decreased. Since last December, his health has declined more rapidly, and he's required more care. For example, as of last month, he can no longer drive, walk without a walker, or remember to take his meds. He's cognitively declining as well. When I was a little girl, my grandmother used to take care of my sisters and I, and while my mother was away at work during the day. And she would be busy in the kitchen doing something, washing dishes, whatever. And I'd walk in and say something, and she'd say, "Hi, girl, you take my mind." And that's how I feel now. I feel like my mind is taken. It's taken by the commutes to and from UCLA Westwood and Santa Monica, dealing with traffic, keeping on top of his schedule, advocating for him, doing both of our chores now, because he was one who split the chores equally, and grieving and more. So I haven't had the mental capacity and creative juice to generate new work. And I'm still working on the original OLG, and the one that I began in December 2019. It's hard to concentrate on the heady research for OLG, let alone read full-length creative books like novels, creative nonfiction memoirs, all of which are integral to my writing. However, like I said before, I'm frustrated. I don't feel guilty, but because writing is such a huge part of my life, I need to write. It's like waking up in the morning, eating breakfast, breathing for me. Well, I'm a joy seeker, So I found workarounds to nourish my writer self while making sure I take care of my body and mental health, going for walks, doing yoga, watching the hummingbirds in the front and backyards, gardening, praying, meditating, and talking to my very supportive friend. And that's really important because at first I would tell her, I don't want to dump on you. And she said, you're not dumping. I want to know what's going on with you. And I feel very blessed to have a friend like that, but it's also, reminded me that, well, yeah, I would be there if somebody needed to talk. And I am careful not to just dump on her. It's an exchange as well. And so even doing one of these for 5 minutes a day not only helps me as a person, but it helps my writer self. And ways that I directly nourish my writer self are by journaling. And for now, journaling is my creative writing. On the pages are seeds for new poems and personal essays. I write about what's happening, what I think about what's happening, memories that pop up, because for me, being alone a lot of memories pop up, and realizations about those memories, and more. I write about what's outside the window, which fortunately for me, hummingbirds, because we have a bush right there. And I use a journal, I handwrite and a journal with blank or graph pages for free flow. And I like it's small enough that I can take it in my purse with me or a small bag. And I also write new seeds for new work by attending short online writing workshops once in a long while. I also, by reading, I do low stakes reading, by reading at least one poem or creative nonfiction essay a day. And I've accepted that reading research for OLG is slow going. In addition to the women who submit transformation anthology and authors, I've also been uplifted and comforted by Amy Nezukuma Tatil's essay books, Ross Gay's essay books, James Crew's poetry posts on his social media pages, anthologies he's edited, which the most recent ones have prompts in them, and his weekly e-newsletter. And his weekly e-newsletter contains a poem, a brief anecdote about the poem, and a prompt. And you can find the archive of the prompts on his site. I grab time to read and journal when he's napping at home, when I take him to appointments I don't need to be there for, or when he's asleep in the hospital or in the emergency room. I read in his hospital or emergency room and write in a window nook, in a quiet hall at Santa Monica Hospital, in the meditation prayer room at Santa Monica Hospital or the Westwood Hospital, in the car or at a nearby botanical garden or park. Another impact on my writer self is isolation. Before COVID, Jorge and I often attended literary, music, arts, and other events. These were our social outlets. But since the pandemic, we have avoided crowded and indoor spaces. If he gets a respiratory infection, he can't go get his treatment. He has to wait until he recovers. So we've mostly been homebound. But I've managed to socialize in two ways. One is by meeting with Women's Write-In members, a collective with rotating membership of women poets and writers that I started before COVID and moved to Zoom during the pandemic. We meet once a week, and we're an intimate group, 4 to 6 people. We write for 1 hour alone together and briefly talk afterward. Some weeks, the only time I get to work on OLG is during this hour. Our meetings have become my main source of solidarity and social interaction with other writers. I've also presented at a few events, and I'm grateful to women who submit, members, and others who've invited me to read, knowing that I might have to cancel at the last minute if Jorge has an emergency. I was able to attend today because a dear friend has offered to stay with him. I've become more open to asking for help from those who've offered. And I found that folks show up. So my time is up, and thank you very much. The next person to speak is Diane Marie Brown. She is a professor of Orange Coast College. She is a graduate at USC's professional writing program. Her work has appeared in Bomb Magazine, Scary Mommy, the Audible blog, and the Daily Bruin. Her debut novel, Black Candle Women, is a Read with Jenna book club selection.
Thank you. Thank you all for this panel, for having us here. It's been very inspiring listening to the stories of my panelists, a lot of overlap, a lot of things in common, and I'm sure the same with all of you in the audience. It really made me think about the expectations that women have, that mothers have, that daughters have, a lot of that guilt and the feeling by others that we should be doing other things or prioritizing other things is just something that I think we need to work against in whatever way that we can. So I'll just quickly tell you about some of the ways that I've been a caretaker over the years, some things that I've done to squeeze in the writing when I can, because like Liz mentioned, I'm sure shared with many others, I have to write. And if there's time, read something that from my book about one of my characters that I feel inspired is connected to some of the balance that I feel that I've had to do. So I am an only child of two educators. I grew up in Stockton, California, Northern California, but I came down here to go to school at UCLA. And I always remember my mom's friend saying, "You can't let her go down there, she'll never come back." And that's exactly what happened. And my parents had me when they were older. And so it was hard being down here. They were getting to the age where they might be retiring. So my sophomore year at UCLA, I got pregnant by my high school boyfriend. So I was still visiting up north and came back from the Christmas break with a little surprise. And so my dad, he figured, well, I don't have to pay for school anymore, so he retired, and my mom kept working as a kindergarten teacher. But I managed to stay in school, work through school. But my daughter, we learned, she was about, I think, 8 or 9 months, had asthma. So we spent a lot of time in the emergency room. Every holiday, Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, I've been in the emergency room with her. This was before I really thought about being a writer seriously. I thought, oh, it'd be cool to write stories, and I'd always shared stories, but I hadn't thought about actually becoming a writer. So then I eventually graduated. My husband, who's not my oldest daughter's father, got married, and then so I had 2 stepdaughters, and we had a daughter together, so 4 girls, and so managing everything that goes along with a busy family, and still trying to take care of my parents as best I could as they were getting older, every year, you know, not being able to do as much, but still visit when I could. But that's around the time when I thought about taking writing seriously. So I decided to go back to school against the judgment, with judgment from people saying, well, you still have kids in school, why are you going to school? But it was something that was really important to me. I really wanted to work on my craft. And back then, there wasn't just the access to like online classes or the courses that we have these days. So went back to school at USC and got my degree in fiction from their professional writing program. And that was difficult because I had a daughter who was, I think at the time, in kindergarten and one in high school, and my two stepdaughters in the summers. And so that meant to do my work, I was still very much kind of the traditional mom. I was doing the lunches, I was prepping what they're gonna wear, I was picking them up after school. So that meant I had to wake up at 5 o'clock, and my goal every morning was to write 500 words. And what helped for me back then, and still kind of do this now, is I wrote in notebooks. So if I filled up front and back 2 notebook pages, that was about 500 words, and I didn't have to, you know, be sitting in front of the computer at a desk. I could do that wherever there was light, or one of my kids' rooms, it was in the kitchen, I did that. And that helped me get to my thesis, which eventually became my debut. That took many, many years to publish, not at a different panel. But still kind of the ins and outs of finding ways to write. So I once I was done with school, it still took me about a year to finish the book. So I would write everywhere that I could. So if I was in the car waiting after school, I would write there. I would write, one of my daughters was a dancer and did volleyball, so during practices in the car, sitting around watching forever and ever. Right there, right on my phone, or outline whatever I had to do. Then my mom got sick, and so that's when things got a little more complicated, because as the only child, I felt, my dad was also, he hadn't been diagnosed with an illness, but he, you know, had some chronic issues and getting older as well. And so I had to travel up and down the state as often as I could to take care of them. But again, as much as I could, finding a way to just get in some writing. And this is during the time where I was submitting and not being very successful, but just hoping that something would change. And just trying to stay inspired, I think it was a big part, is a big part of sticking to things. So finding people and organizations that help you stay inspired, I think is very important. Eventually my mom passed away, and my dad was alone. And so what I came to an agreement with my husband, the kids, is that I would go up once a month to check on my dad, which I did until COVID hit. But while I was doing that, I got very used to writing on planes, writing on my phone. I just typically have my laptop with me no matter where I go. And there have been a couple of times where I've lost it or it's almost gone stolen. So now I like triple save. I write on Word, and I cut and paste it right away into a Google Doc and also into a Scrivener doc, because I'm paranoid that something's going to happen. But I like to have my tech with me, and again, still the notebooks. And then last year, my dad well, before that, then my youngest daughter became ill. she was diagnosed with 2 chronic illnesses within a couple of years, when she was in high school and then her second year in college. And by the second episode, when she was in college, I already had a book deal by then, but the book hadn't come out yet. And so I remember being at Cedars-Sinai and them saying that she had to have surgery, and I was scheduled to go to New Orleans to be on a panel for debut. My very first panel ever with people who had books coming out the following year, and publisher had paid for it, and I felt all this pressure, and I was just worried, like, what do I do? What is the right decision? What do I do? And I just kind of waited, I prayed, and it turns out that they couldn't do the surgery right away because she needed to get her nutrition to a certain level. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna be gone for 36 hours. Hopefully she'll be fine. I had to like trust my husband or trust other people in my life. I have to be okay in saying, just because I take that role as a caregiver, doesn't mean I'm the only caregiver, right? I have to be open to letting other people do that work that maybe I feel burdened with, not burdened, but tasked with doing or responsible for doing. And so the surgery, I went to New Orleans, the surgery went fine. I booked it out last year. And my dad got a copy, I signed it for him, he was there to celebrate with me. And then a few months later, about a year ago, last August, I went up for my monthly visits, and he was not doing very well at all. And so, and at that point, I had started working on my next book, doing a lot of research, and I took him to the emergency room, and he was gone 14 days later. And so I was there, I was with him, and of course, I wasn't thinking about writing. Even if I had to or wanted to, I wasn't in that space. But to kind of keep my mind occupied, because he was sleeping a lot of the time, so other than doing puzzles on my phone, I listened to books or read books that were connected to the work that I was doing, kind of I guess a way of doing research. And that at least kept me occupied, but I was able to take care of my dad and be with him during his last days. And then I didn't write for a long time after that, but now this spring I'm back at I got back to the place where I was able to focus again and write again, and so doing a lot of research during that time again and being inspired by other works, but feeling now that I'm in a spot where I can write again. So excited for my next projects. Yeah, I know I'm out of time, so I will stop there.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to open it up to audience for any questions, but if you can please wait for the microphone, you can. Do you have any questions in the audience? Otherwise, you can chat with the panel.
I wanted to thank you to each of you for sharing. And I feel like you spoke in various ways to the sort of aspects of forgiveness and guilt and piety. But yeah, I was wondering if any of you had more thoughts in terms of your relationship to forgiveness and guilt and piety. As far as forgiveness, I think that I've gone through different phases, and so then you know, where I've had to end up forgiving forehead for getting sick and forgiving myself for being upset that he got sick because it's ridiculous. He didn't want to get sick. And so, you know, that caused guilt. And sometimes, you know, I get frustrated because I'm homebound. Our lives has completely changed, and seeing one of the things I talked about was seeing a therapist who specializes in working with caregivers that I was very fortunate to see through Sims Man at UCLA. They did for free, but you only have so many. But, you know, she explained to me that I'm grieving the loss of our life, our lifestyle, and I'm grieving the loss of our future together. And so that helped me to forgive myself and to see the bigger picture. And that's, well, for me, that's my experience. For me, I see this year as a year that I'm sort of emerging out of the thing of what's, you know, my mom passed me when we do, and I had to deal with the estate and selling the houses and stuff like that, stuff I'm not good at. So this is the first year, I think, that I'm looking at that. I think this came up at a wonderful time because I haven't looked back at my texts. But for me, I know I have to get around to forgiveness. It's like, I gotta let it go, and I'm working on it. I'm working on it because it's like, otherwise you're still reaching out and try to strangle me. But I did learn before she passed away that a lot of why she was mad at me was not because of me, but because of her sister. She would confuse me with her sister, and she would blame me for stuff that I had no idea. But so that was, I guess, one gift that I get. So I need to. It's hard. It takes time to let go.
I guess for me, the way that I looked at things, my perspective is really focused on timing. I feel like there's a right time for everything, and so there was a time in my life where, although I did focus on my writing and my creative self, it was the caretaker side that had the heavier load, and I had to let that be the case for a time. And I feel like the time has now shifted, and although I still have some caregiving responsibilities, my larger self is my creative self, and that is just the right order of things. And so I have to not let myself feel guilty because I nurtured my different selves. It's just realizing that the timing has to be right for that self.
I think for me, guilt is always there. You know, my son is sick, he's thriving, great, but like last summer when we had to spend our summer every weekly occupational therapy session, I was like, oh, this is my fault. And then I kind of, you know, focus on positive, he's healthy, he's thriving. If this is the worst of it, I would gladly take it. And then because he was pregnant, he was born in June or September. So even with schooling, a part of me wanted to hold him back, have him start transitional kindergarten. He was too old for it, and last year he was too young because we had to change the dates around. So to make up for that, because there's that mom guilt still, I decided to put him in summer school. was on one end of Long Beach and my daughter's summer camp on the other end of Long Beach. And he hated it. It was only a month, but like, I'm like, why did it, and I reached out to his school counselor. He's like, he doesn't need it. I mean, he has some small delay, but he's reading really well, but his writing is not to par for first grade. Like, writing in first grade, are you kidding me? But okay, so, in my mind, I'm doing the right thing by giving him a leg up, but he made it miserable. So all that to say is that I was just happy when that month was over, but I just need to listen to other people. Decide how it felt. He's fine. I didn't need to go back that, but it's hard to turn off that. Does anybody have
Oh, we have a couple questions in the chat, but maybe.
This one will be quick. Can you name some of the writing or support groups that like you had mentioned in your talk? Because they missed them.
Yes, I just went online and I started looking, there's, a paragraph out of New York has writing along together, and that's like 5 o'clock in the morning, which was good for me. But sometimes people don't know how to do it themselves, and I find that they have, you can attend any of them, and they have it geared towards some other countries as well. Another one was, salon, and then, I guess, my mind was blank, no, really. It's like maybe dementia. I think different workshops and things like that. There were others, I'm sorry. But, I would love to make a plug if I may. If all you can write on lists, you can write something from that. I just took a fabulous online flash in 5 from Tisha Marie, like Aguilar, about what you can do with those things in order to get flash. So if you're in it, you gotta learn how to do something with it, or if you think that you're gonna head into something like that, it's fantastic. I've taken her class twice. So flash, it can be written in create nonfiction or fiction, and I think the max is 1,000 words or 750 words. But Modern Love in New York Times, I think the max is 200 words. So that's also something too that, it's easier to write a small little snapshot. As I started women's writing, and first we met in each other's homes, and now we meet on Zoom every Friday at noon, and it's an intimate group. But I also highly recommend Jane's Cruz workshops. They're very comforting and inspiring and uplifting. So I highly recommend his workshops as well. Another question? Oh,
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned that I'm partaking in a writing group as well, but there is a group called Permission to Write, and they meet to write on Mondays, Fridays, and Saturdays for an hour via Zoom with really nice writing music. And then I'll just also throw in the LA-based writer Janet Finch. She has writing Wednesdays on Facebook, Wednesdays at noon, which rates information, and those are all. She has archived episodes on Facebook. I'm sorry, YouTube.
So, the song, so thank you so much. I actually came from Oakland, I'll backtrack a little bit. I'm really interested in the ways that our ancestors or those who have, I'm really interested in the ways that our ancestors and those who have passed with cared for, or maybe have cared for us in a way we're not even sure of, like we're in a spectral plane. I'm very interested in how to weave that in to my memoir. So for example, I'm also an only child. I have, and my parents both remarried, so I have 4 and no other kids. So 4 aging parents, and my father, who is an immigrant from Iran, I just put him in a memory care facility, like at the beginning of July. And so for me, it's also around identity, is very much is wrapped up in this work and this writing into caregiving and around caregiving. And I'm trying, I find myself in my memoir, which is about, I'm also a foster mom through a federal program for refugee and unaccompanied youth. And so I'm trying to basically connect this real time, and it was during the Muslim ban, and as a Muslim and fostering Muslim kids. So I'm trying to take this and also connect it back to sort of my father's land and my father's memory, and also my father now using his mind, right, his mind being seasoned, right, I love that phrase, is making me now think about who else did we lose and whose memory I can tap into, right, who I may not have known. So that is a really long way of asking, are there ways that you use the stories of those who have come before to sort of help your writing and the ways that you craft the story? I hope that makes sense. Thank you.
So since I have the mic, I'll try to answer your question as your question. I also write my book, and my mom passed away in 2013. She was on COVID, and well, I didn't hear things from her. I did spend a lot with her, and I was trying to get pregnant, but I think all of that, my mom still was heavily on me. But after my mom passed, I used to have conversations with her, and when I finally got pregnant, I feel like it was divine intervention to my mother. And the thing that like cemented it was when the doctor told me my due date was my mother's birthday. So, you know, and going back to what I was saying, for me, journaling, because I wouldn't have connected today had I not been. But as a memoirist, I think it's really important to journal. And for me, I do have more like to check in with myself. There's nothing more gratifying than reading a journal entry from, not necessarily I wouldn't have written on this day 10 years ago, but around this date, and seeing like how much growth that person has done. So hopefully that answered or validated what you were saying. I don't know.
My situation is that my family talk about the past, their stories, because the experience, you know. But as a kid, I always had the capacity to remember certain phrases. And that's what I'm exploring now, the certain phrases, photographs, and just, you know, I'm like, actually the novel I'm working on does have these dream sequences where the character is talking with, not talking, seeing a dead grandmother who she knows nothing about. So sometimes it's a matter of taking what you know and then creating to your own life. I just wanted to add something really quick. Lucy's piece that she just read is a great model. It's not the same, but you know, weaving in what was going on, you talked about what was going on with the Muslim ban, you know, that'd be a great model to look at. Thank you.
I also want to thank you as a caregiver myself, and having the opportunity to raise that taught me a lot of lessons. So as we navigate through grief, how do you overcome the guilt to your writing to make that time when they're not like, I should be caretaking, but right, I don't, if you want, that would be helping out some of the things.
Well, I have that scheduled once a week for the women, women writing in, and that's my hour, and I'm gonna take it. I've been taking it. Sometimes I've had to cancel because we had appointments. But giving myself just that 1 hour means a lot. And then, like I said, I use time when he's asleep, when, or I don't need to be in an appointment. And so I don't feel guilt because, it's my free, the little free time I have. And, I don't know if that's helpful to you, but I think that remembering that self-care is utterly important. And that is one of my ways of self-care, is to make sure that, I'm writing in my journal or I'm chipping away at the OLG historical piece.
You deserve it. I'll just say that for me personally, I'm not defining it, but I think East of the Hills, it's always gonna be there. And so I just give it its own face, so hopefully.
I wanted to say one thing though, add something about Lucy, if you don't mind me saying this. One time Lucy told me that she needed a break. And then, she felt bad about saying that she needed a break. And then I was like, no, you need a break. And so sometimes too, talking to somebody and also a therapist or a dear friend or just remembering that, like, what would I tell a friend? I'd tell them they need a break. Schedule it.
Thank you.
And I'm not telling you what to do, I'm just telling you where I'm at.
Thank
Oh,
you, everyone.
Okay, so
Oh,
thank-
we're,
Are you done?
yeah,
It's okay, no worries. It's not a big. deal.
they're here too.
Yeah, yeah.
You wanna-
Thank you so much, everybody, for attending, and feel free to come and talk with us. And, you can find us, we all have websites, I think, online, I don't know, do you have one, Kate? Yeah, we all have websites online, and Kate is not, but you can get us contact information here. And, thank you again for attending.